Queer Eye is about fashion and food and hair, but really it's just about love, isn't it? Right? Yeah. Love of what's beautiful in yourself and your friends. And it's about embracing our own stories, the way our experiences are different from every single person in this room, and the ways that they are the same. No one's story encompasses this better than Tan Francis. I expected his memoir to be kind of snarky and silly and sartorial, and it is, but it's also a life that is grounded in love for family and friends, an amazingly strong work ethic, and above all, a committed, loving marriage. In Naturally Tan, he charts his journey from a youth playing with Barbies in Yorkshire to an entrepreneur and fashion designer in Salt Lake City to the world's leading French tuck advocate. How many do we have in the audience? Oh, yeah. Okay, I got one. With this signature honesty and compassion he is so beloved for. And I'm thrilled to have Ari Shapiro joining Tan in conversation tonight. You can all close your eyes and you will recognize Ari's melodious voice from your mornings with him on All Things Considered. But he is a treat in person too. As one of my celebrity authors exclaimed when meeting him for the first time, Ari does not have a face for radio. You'll see. In addition to his extensive award-winning work at NPR as White House and international correspondent and co-host of All Things Considered, he is a traveler, a foodie, and a lounge singer. Maybe we can get Tan to encourage him to sing a little for us. Now, can we show Tan that some people in DC have good taste? Can we do that? Can we? Yes. Could we perhaps show Tan a little DC pride? Could we? Please help me welcome. Please help me welcome Tan France and Ari Shapiro.
Thank you. Wow. I know, it's Ari Shapiro. I've never heard a roar like that in my life. The only person I've heard applause like that for is Liza Minnelli.
Oh, rightly so, rightly so. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for coming out. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
You are all so well dressed. I'm not used to seeing that in DC.
Did you all struggle with what to wear tonight? I did too. I thought I had to wear a suit because you guys seem so proper out here.
I feel so underdressed. Tan rolls in this double-breasted suit.
Yeah. Usually I look like trash, but I thought, I should make an effort.
I know you haven't spent a lot of time in D.C. You were here a few weeks ago meeting with Nancy Pelosi and AOC.
Yeah.
As some people might say. I know. Just rolling through the streets on your way here, what was your first impression of what people in D.C. wear?
They look great. It seems very...
No, for real. Come on.
No, you guys dress great. I'm hyper aware when there's a badly dressed city, so I didn't notice it, which means that you guys can't be dressing badly. I just saw a lot more suits than I've ever seen anywhere.
I was expecting a little more honesty from you, Tan.
This is about to get real. But the fashion, honestly, I would never have noticed that there was dodgy fashion here.
Well, you're a very good guest.
Do you have decent stores here? Oh, no.
We have a lot of, listen, I shouldn't shit talk DC. I'm not here to bash the city that I call home.
Yeah, we are. Let's do it.
I'll just say that, rolling through the streets of New York, you see a little bit of a different cityscape, in what people are wearing. But listen, we're not here to talk about DC clothes. We're here to talk about Naturally
My clothes.
Tan.
Oh, yes.
Your book.
Yes.
So, happy Pride.
Thank you so much.
Happy Pride. And also Eid Mubarak.
Eid Mubarak.
So much to celebrate tonight.
For any of you who don't know what that is, this is the most whitewashed version I can say of this, but it's basically my Christmas today.
So will you take us back to Yorkshire, this town in North England where you grew up, what were Eid celebrations like when you were a kid in this mostly white town in your little South Asian community?
So obviously very small, because not many people were celebrating. There were around about probably 10 other Asian. In England, we're called Asian. I know that's really confusing for a lot of people out here. Whenever I say that, they're like, you don't look Asian. But yeah, so there were about 10 other Asian communities Asian families in my community. And so we'd all go to mosque in the morning to pray. And then we'd go home to our individual families. We'd usually have extended family come up from out of town. It was always a feast. I learned to cook really, really early on. And so I'd be in the kitchen.
Did you help with the cooking?
Always.
What was your favorite thing to make?
So much. Okay, every country, every continent has their version of flatbread. Ours is called roti or chapati. I know. And anyone who's South Asian out there knows that. I love that there are a lot of you. I make the most beautifully round roti you'll ever see. And the reason I say that...
Giving Anthony a run for his money.
Yeah, the reason I say that is because women are trained from a young age, usually. If you want to make a great marriage, if you want to find a husband, a good husband, you've got to make a perfect round roti.
And you knew you wanted to find a good husband.
I wanted to find the best husband. And I did. And it's all because my rotis were so round.
That's what he fell in love with you for.
They were right. They were right.
So those were the Eid celebrations growing up. What were the Pride celebrations like?
Oh, amazing. Yeah. My parents were all about a Pride parade in my home. Mm-hmm. No, the funny thing is, I mentioned this in the book, I literally never heard the word gay in my household. We weren't allowed to watch a lot of white TV, we call it. And so... I don't call it that anymore, I've learned. But my parents used to call it white TV, and so we weren't allowed to watch a lot of white TV, and so the word gay I didn't really hear until I was old enough at school, and then kids would say it to me like, that's so gay, that's so gay.
So the first time you heard it was like as a derogatory.
Yeah. I knew I was different, but not enough where my parents would think, oh, we should question this.
But the thing that stood out to me in the book was, as you put it, you were so concerned about being brown that you didn't even have time to worry about being gay.
There's only so much real estate in here. Here's the thing. If any of you have a double whammy where you're of color and also LGBTQ, you have to kind of pick the one that is most obvious in your community. And for me, it was the brown thing. It wasn't even, I would have struggled if they'd noticed that I was gay, but I wasn't overly effeminate when I was younger. I am now, but as you can see. But as a kid, I wasn't, and so most people didn't really notice. The brown thing was definitely a bigger problem in my community.
I was thinking the other day about kind of the way people of color have to grow up and build armor, and the way queer people have to grow up and build camouflage, and the way that those two things intersect, and the ability or inability to cover, and the way the world relates to you.
Yes.
And the way people relate to their parents, because most people of color are raised by parents who have grown up with the same experience, and most queer people are raised by parents who have not. And negotiating those two things and navigating those two things is very different.
Yeah, and I was always really jealous of, let me preface this by saying, I'm not saying that Western gay people have an easier time, or LGBTQ people have an easier time, or that white LGBTQ people have an easier time. However, we have seen a little more representation on TV for the white gay community, whereas we hadn't for the brown. And so I think the reason why my community struggles so much accepting this or understanding this is because you just didn't know it. My mom had never heard the word gay before. It wasn't in her vernacular. Whereas with my white gay counterparts, when they came out, at least their parents knew what it was, even though it was a very negative depiction on TV. There were caricatures of the gay community, but at least they kind of understood what it was. For my family, it was so shocking because they'd never heard that word before.
Do you remember who the first figure in like pop culture entertainment was?
Yeah, Jack from Will and Grace. Yeah. And me and my siblings loved Will and Grace, so we weren't allowed to watch. We weren't allowed to watch a lot of white TV when my parents were home. But when they were out, like we were obsessed. And yeah, but we were fascinated by Will and Grace because it gave us a window into a world that was so different from ours, and we didn't know what this gay thing was. It was a lot.
It was a lot.
It was a lot.
Just scratch the surface there in that show. I love the story of where your kind of familial roots of fashion come from in your grandfather's Denim Factory.
I want to make it clear, I did not work in my
You were not a child.
No, because somebody, somebody commented in the press a couple of days ago, saying he had to work in his granddad's factory. No, but I just wanted to be there. Like, it was my favorite place. Other kids wanted to be, God knows where, a theme park. I wanted to be at my granddad's denim factory, and no joke, by the age of 13, I could make a denim jacket, which is not easy, from scratch.
Buttons and everything?
Everything. I could even embroider the shit. Like, I was so skilled.
Okay, so what was like the 8-year-old Tan France's ideal denim jacket? Are we talking about like fringe, bedazzled,
actually, it was
like purple?
8, no. He only had blue denim, sometimes white. But it was a vest. At the age of 8, I helped make a vest. It was denim, and it had Pluto.
From Disney.
Yeah, printed all over it. And I screen printed it myself. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And so I honestly thought as a kid, I was like, this is the dream. Like, I'm going to spend the rest of my life on a machine making denim. And because it was so impressive, I thought, this must pay a fortune.
Right.
It really doesn't. And so I had to recalibrate my dream. I remember telling my family, I'm going to be a machinist one day. And they're like, bitch, no, you're not.
You're going to be a doctor.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
You will be doctor, lawyer, engineer. And then I was like, no, I'm not going to be any of those things. And so, I knew I wanted to get into fashion. I didn't know how, but I wanted to be involved with clothes.
It amazes me that at age 6, 7, 8, you say you changed outfits several times a day.
Many times.
It's a good thing your parents had never heard of being gay.
I know.
Because if they had, it might have been, if the Pluto, it printed on the denim jacket wasn't enough of a giveaway. Like, walk us through a 6-year-old Tan's day where he changes outfits 3 times.
So this was usually a weekend. And my parents worked every hour that God sent. They were immigrants, and that's usually the case with immigrants. And so they were working every hour that God sent, and so I was at home with my siblings. And I would dress for breakfast, and then we'd watch then TV, and I'd be like, oh, I can't wear, you've just seen this outfit.
Heaven forfend, you should wear your breakfast outfit to the television watching.
That was unfathomable for me. And so I would change to my breakfast outfit, and then if we were going to play, I can't play in the clothes that I'm sat to watch TV in.
Of course you can't.
I'm going to get my clothes dirty.
Who does?
Yeah, trash. And then I would get changed for mosque. We went to mosque every day, so I'd change into more modest clothing, which I still have to wear. I was just telling one of my colleagues backstage, not from Queer Eye, don't get excited.
Sorry.
Still to this day, when I'm home, if I decide to wear this and I walk in and I sit down, my mum would instantly slap my legs and call me a whore and tell me to get changed.
Wait, why? Because you're showing ankle?
I'm showing too much of my body. And that's inappropriate in front of my mother. And so,
You're really not showing very much of your body.
I mean, for her, it's a lot. And so, I would change into mosque clothes, and then when I'd get back from mosque, I'd change into another outfit. A good 5 or 6 every day. The laundry was insane.
Yeah.
The laundry was insane. Yeah. And so she knew from a very early age. I asked her when I was writing the book, I did want her opinion on what I was like as a kid. Excuse me as I belch. When you speak a lot, you belch a lot. And so I asked, I couldn't remember what I was like as a kid, and I remembered what my siblings were like. I'm the youngest, and I remember they were all little shits, and everybody goes through like a horrible teenage phase. Most people go through that horrible teenage phase when you start to be moody with your parents. And I asked my mom, I was like, what was my time like? And this is not just a brag, but she was like, you never went through it. You're the only one who never went through that weird time. You were always just very sweet. She said, but the most annoying thing was that I knew something was weird about you. She calls it off. I knew something was off about you because you spent way too much time with me. You were always in the kitchen, and no boy ever did that in our community. And For my 6th birthday, I so desperately wanted to have something custom made. I didn't want...
A specific thing custom made or just to own a custom...
I wanted... This is going to sound heinous now, but remember Versace was a thing in the 90s or the 80s? And so I wanted a black silk shirt made with gold buttons.
Did you get it for your 6th birthday?
No, of course I didn't. We were poor. We could afford
Trade
that
some
shit.
Denim items for
I could have potentially have tried to make it myself, but even the silk itself would have cost a lot. Yeah. But yeah, that's what
And you would have outgrown it in a year.
Yeah. But what kid asked for a fucking silk shirt with gold buttons for a 6th birthday?
We have some audience questions that I'm going to sprinkle throughout my questions.
Okay, great.
And as they seem appropriate and relevant to the topic at hand. And one of these questions is, what advice do you want to give your younger self?
Okay, it's actually advice that I mentioned in the book. First off, I'm going to mention the book real quick. I know it's going to sound like a plug just for the book, but let me tell you, I worked so hard on the book, and it really is a true representation of what my life was like. I get to only give a snapshot of my life on Queer Eye. It's a 44-minute show. There's 5 of us, and we're focusing on a hero. You don't really get to understand what our lives were. The reason why I wanted to write this book was because I think it's important. I'm one of the very few of my community who's been afforded this platform, and so I want to use it. And I talk about my childhood. It's mostly about being a person of color, but also a person of color within the gay community. And the advice I would give myself now, if I knew what I know now, would be: you don't need to uncross your legs for them. You cross your legs all you fucking want. And I used to love to double cross. I can't do it anymore, but it feels so comfortable.
It's called eagle pose in yoga.
Is it? Oh, really? Okay. So I used to sit like this, and people would slap the shit out of my legs. And I was a little boy. I just think, fuck, let that little boy sit however he wants to sit. If he thinks it's comfortable, let him sit that way. And so, yeah, that's the advice I would say: is if they slap your legs, slap them back.
I think the moment that I actually put down the book and applauded physically and just sort of said, wow.
Oh.
He is more of a man than I will ever be, was when you described your first trip to New York.
Okay. Do not do this. I'm not suggesting, but do not learn from me. This is not a self-help book. Do not learn from this book. Well, not this section of the book anyway. When I was 17, I'm not going to give too much of this story away, but I was a really, really good boy. I really was with my family. I was always very sensible. I wasn't allowed to go out of the house outside of school. And so my mom always knew where I was. And so by the time I hit 17, or I was about to hit 17 for my birthday, I told her that I was going to my friend's house across town, which I'd never done before. But I said, look, you know how responsible I am. You know I won't do anything stupid. I'm just going to my friend's house for about 4 or 5 days. Is that okay? And she was like, yes, you've never caused me any trouble before. Go ahead.
You know where this is going.
Never be stupid enough to trust the one that seems the most innocent in the family, because they're doing more dodgy shit than any of the others. The others have been caught out and you know what it's all about. The quiet one is the one who's getting up to some real. And so I was lying constantly to my family to be able to do what I wanted to do. And so I just hid it better than them. I'm smarter than my siblings. And so I told my mom that I was going across town, and instead, at 17, I went to New York.
I mean, my first time in New York, I was a freshman in college.
Yeah.
I was at Yale, so I took
18, 19?
Yeah, 18.
Okay.
I was a freshman at Yale, so a friend and I took a train 2 hours to New York. We didn't have cell phones, because that's how old I am. And I remember getting out in Penn Station with my friend and saying, or it was Grand Central Station, and saying, okay, so if the two of us get separated, and he expected I was going to say, we'll meet at blah, 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 blah. I said, I'm just going to stand on the corner and scream and cry until you find me. So the idea of flying from the UK to New York without the knowledge of your parents at age 17 is mind-blowing to me.
I'm going to give this book to my future children, and there will be a page in there saying, if you ever dream of doing this, I will chop your legs off. Just know you will never be able to walk again.
Okay, the last thing I want to ask you about your childhood, and then we'll get to Queer Eye and fashion and adulthood and all of that, is your dreams of being a Bollywood star.
Okay, here's the thing. So we weren't allowed to watch a lot of white TV, but brown TV was fine. And so we were always watching Indian movies or Bollywood movies, and I was fascinated by them. And I don't know why, I just thought, I can't dance, I can't act, I can't sing, but I'm going to be a Bollywood star. And so I actively tried, well, not actively tried to do that, but I took performing arts class, thinking this is actually achievable and attainable. And I still, to this day, think it might happen. But my desire now is different. I didn't think I was ever going to be in show business, truly. That was a silly pipe dream. But now that I'm actually in show business, I think maybe if I say it enough, somebody will think, well, just give him like a walk-on. Like I'll pour someone tea in the background of a shot.
Okay, so on that note, I have another audience question for you, which I'm just going to hand to you.
Can you show us your best Bhangra move? Okay. You've seen it on the show. I don't know Bhangra very well, but Bhangra moves are usually an action, and we just do it to music. So you change the light bulbs, but my favorite one is Stay Away. Stay Away. That's my favorite. Yeah.
One of the things that I love about your story is before you discovered television, or television discovered you, when you really found success as a small business owner, as the creator of a clothing line, it was by leaning into what sets you apart from other people. You created a modest clothing line, meeting a need that others hadn't met, and, to borrow a phrase, leaning into what set you apart from every other person who was interested in fashion and design.
Yeah, I live in Salt Lake City, Utah. You're right to whoop, it's incredible. I truly love it so much. I actually still live there. I don't get to be there as often as I'd like to be, but I love Salt Lake. If you've never been, just go. I promise you, it's not what you think it is. It's gorgeous.
It really is gorgeous. I was there this year.
Gorgeous. You have no idea. And it's so much cheaper. Why are you here? Go somewhere where you can... Go to Salt Lake. Anyway, it's a lovely life. And so I've forgotten the question.
Creating a modest clothing line.
And so,
as you talk about, your mother says you're showing too much skin.
This was a lot.
This is something you understand on a deep level.
Yeah, I understand a more extreme version of modesty and modest clothing. And then I went to Utah for the first time, and I started working for a company that created modest clothing. It was my first job in the US, and it helped me get my visa at the time. And I was working at this company, loved this company, the owner was wonderful, but they were doing stuff that I didn't think was cool at all. It covered what they needed to cover, but it wasn't interesting. And so when that went out of business, I decided to create a more fashionable version of it. I just treated it differently. I thought, well, these women, they still want to be stylish, they still want to be hot. They just have to cover this thing. So I'm going to create fashionable clothing that just so happens to be modest. And it worked. I was about to lie and say it worked so well. It did eventually. The first few years were hellacious, the worst. I was working every hour that God sent. I was working a job as a receptionist or a data inputter or a secretary or whatever to make ends meet. And then finally, thankfully, it worked out. But it was because I thought of fashion differently. I wasn't thinking, I'm going to be the next Alexander McQueen. I wasn't thinking any of that. I just thought, I want to create a business that actually does cater to a community who desperately wants to feel good about themselves.
I'm sure people were so grateful for that.
Yeah, it was lovely. The following was insane. And actually my assistant now, who I've had for almost 4 years, she was such a massive fan of my brand that she used to turn up to every one of my appearances, every one of the things that we would do. And then one day she said, if you're looking for an employee, I would love to work for you. And she's still my assistant to this day, and I love her so much. Yeah.
You write really honestly about the toll that running that business took on you.
Yeah, I don't talk a lot about this, and I didn't talk a lot about it in the book. You'll notice it was a fleeting sentence, a couple of sentences, because I didn't want it to be clickbait, and it so became that the last couple of days, where people talk about how Tan attempted suicide, or was considering attempting suicide. I didn't belabor the point because the story, I think, is something that many of us share. And so what I will say is this. I made it clear in the book that I didn't suffer from depression. I don't suffer from depression. I went through a bout of depression for a moment, but I would never say I suffer from depression. I went through a really hard time because of the stress of my businesses. I once had multiple businesses. Thankfully, they were all successful. But the bigger these businesses got, the more successful they got, the more stressful they got. And so at one point, I thought I couldn't take it anymore, and I couldn't see the wood for the trees. And one day, on my way home, I considered driving off a bridge, and I called my husband in tears. This was 3 years ago, and he talked me off the ledge. And it was a really, really dark time, And that's when I decided I was going to sell my businesses and retire. I never dreamt that I was going to have. I wasn't a greedy person. I didn't need hundreds of millions of dollars. I just wanted my businesses to become successful enough where I could raise a family and provide for my family. And I had reached that point, so I was able at that point to reevaluate what I wanted in life, what was really important, and that was my husband and my future children. And so I sold my businesses at that point and retired.
Your husband is so central to the book.
Yeah, he's central to my life in general.
So explain how this nice boy from Yorkshire ended up with a Mormon cowboy in Salt Lake City.
Well, the short version is, boy, he's fucking hot. And so that... He is. I was on vacation in Salt Lake. I was living in New York at the time. And, I was living in New York at the time, and that's when I first visited Salt Lake. And then I went back a few times. And I was living in England, and I'm going to actually be honest.
What was the app?
Yeah, there you go. This is why I'm going to be honest. I had a whore phase that I went through.
It wasn't that app. It was not. It was Tinder, right?
No.
Hinge or one of those?
There weren't apps at the time.
Oh.
I'm older. And so it was a website called Connection. It was kind of like gay Facebook. You would never send anything inappropriate. If somebody sent you something inappropriate, you would block them immediately. They wouldn't even send you a topless picture. That would be bizarre on this site. And so
gays would never.
No,
never.
They absolutely would, but not on this site. It was just a lovely, like a sweet site for gays to make friends.
Send a flower.
Yeah. And so I was single, and I told myself I'd gone through a bad breakup. My boyfriend at the time broke up with me. More fool you. And he broke my heart. Again, more fool you. Where are you now, bitch? No, I'm joking. Such a nice guy. He's actually a friend of mine. Sorry, Jake, I'm only kidding. He's a lovely guy. Still, you could have been here with me, but instead... No, he's a lovely guy. But he broke up with me, and I thought, I'm going to be single for a year or so. And I was always a headstrong person. I knew what I wanted in life. I've always been very, very resolute. And so I said, I'm going to take a year out. I'm going to sleep my way around the world.
Starting with Salt Lake City, Utah.
Yeah. And those Salt Lake boys were hot. And so they're just like, they really do like good grooming in Salt Lake. Like they keep it tight. And so And so, I was in Salt Lake. I was on vacation, and we would go out. I would go out with my friends to this gay club. I don't go clubbing at all anymore, but back in the day I did, and my friends would get frustrated because the guys that they were interested in would be interested in me because I was the only brown person who spoke with a fancy accent, as far as they were concerned. Everybody else was Utah, like it's the whitest place I've ever been. And so they were getting frustrated, so they said, we're going to put you on this website, then they're not going to hear your silly accent, all they'll see is a picture. And my now husband is the first person that contacted me saying, you don't look like you're from around here. And my response was, yeah, no shit, Sherlock. And then he pursued me for a few days via this connection, and he asked me if he could take me for lunch. And I said, well, lunch seems non-committal enough, and then I can sleep with him, and we can be over and done with this. And instead, so I challenged him. I'd seen Will and Grace many, many times, and in Will and Grace, they talk about Olive Garden as being the most boring restaurant in the world. They have a couple of friends who choose to go to this place all the time. And so I said to him, there's this place called Olive Garden. He was like, yeah, I know.
Heard of it.
Yeah. And I said, if there's one in Utah, I would like to go there. And he was like, you want to go there for our date? I was like, yes. And so I said to my friends, if he can keep me entertained at what apparently is the most boring place on earth, maybe we'll hang out. And so we went there. And in my opinion, it's the funniest chapter in the book because I go to town on the Olive Garden.
This is not sponsored content.
This is definitely not sponsored content. And they will probably sue me. But I had such a laugh writing this chapter because it is so ludicrous. Olive Garden, the food's fine, but the process is ludicrous. They ask you what you're here to celebrate as you walk in. I'm at Olive Garden, I'm clearly not celebrating anything. Are you out of your mind? You're insane. Anyway, so it went really well, and I didn't want it to end, and so we continued to do
long distance
for 6 years.
Yeah.
We did long distance for 6 years. I would see him every 6 months for 3 months.
So this leads to another audience question. What do you love most about your husband?
That's way too difficult of a question to answer. He is the best person I've ever known. He makes me happy every day. People, Jonathan Van Ness. Yeah. Jonathan Van Ness, when he first met me, said, the most annoying thing about you is how much you gush over your husband. He was like, you just always talk about your husband. I can't help it. I love him so much. He said, it's not possible for you to be happy every day. I was like, he makes me happy every fucking day. Maybe not all day every day, but he makes me happy every day. No, but that would be physically possible, but he makes me happy every day. And here's the thing, I want to do at some point a speaking tour. I do speaking tours across the country in colleges. I've actually been here and done it here before. Hi. Hello again. And isn't that fun? Anyway, so I'm always in this very lighthearted mood. They usually have to tell me to calm down. And so I do the speaking engagement tour, and I want to do another one where I encourage people to date in this way, which is a healthier way. I have so many people who are married and they just seem to hate their partners, and I just think, get the fuck out of that marriage. Like, that sounds miserable. They'll say, oh, I can't wait to take a trip away. Jack's driving me insane. That's nuts. Like, what? How would
Should make you question your life choices.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My husband is the one constant in my life. He makes everything else easy. Like, no matter what's going on in my life, he's my touchstone. And anyway, I can talk about it for hours. I love my husband. He's the best. Yeah. And it's been 11 years. It's been 11 years. Yeah.
As a fellow happily married man, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
So Queer Eye came along unexpectedly, and you write a lot in the book about the process of that kind of falling into your life.
Yeah.
And it made the group of you so famous so fast. I wonder what's been especially surprising to you in both a positive way and a negative way about that kind of like unexpected level of recognition overnight.
Positive is you get a lot of beauty products sent to you. and I love a good beauty product. And also, you get into shit that's bananas. Like, you get to go to... Like, you get to go to these really swanky, famous people parties. And here's the thing, I know this is going to sound so stupid to you because you only know me as Tan France, but this has only been 14 months.
Yeah.
It seems like 10 years, but it's actually only been 14 months. So I still feel like Tan Safdar, that was my name before I married Rob. I still feel like just regular Tan. And I know to everybody else who hasn't known me, they would see me as anybody else in the industry. But every time I'm in the room, I'm always shocked that somebody knows who I am. Mm-hmm. And my husband's like, no, that's ridiculous. Well, how would you feel that way? They know you from the show. It's still shocking when somebody who's massive, it happened a few days ago, and the only reason I'm name dropping this person is because I actually don't know this person, we're not friends, but I saw this person at an event a few days ago, and I was waiting to go onto the red carpet. I was next, and she was about to walk behind me, and she said, oh my God, I love you, and she grabbed me, and I turned around, it was Kate Hudson. I was like, how do you fucking know my name? It's a very bizarre feeling, and it's always somebody, like Oprah knows my name. And she tweeted about me. Like, that's...
Right, the French tuck.
Yeah. That's insane. Could you imagine, just any of you, like, just imagine for a second tomorrow, Oprah's like, oh, I'm just going to tag you. Like, it's insane. And the reason why it feels extra weird is my other boys, I love them very much, but I think they're finding it easier because they've been working towards this industry forever. It happened for me overnight. I never tried for this industry. I got a phone call and somebody said, do you want to be on Queer Eye? I was just Tan.
Yeah.
And so for me, I'm always shocked every day thinking, I can't believe this is my life.
And what's the downside of that?
The downside, I'm not going to lie, the downside is you lose your anonymity. And to a certain, and I know I'm going to sound like poor little... privileged boy, I know, but if you'd asked me before all of this, what would you choose, money or wealth? My husband played these kind of games on road trips. What would you choose, money or fame? My answer was always money over fame. No, because the fame part of it really is hard, and I know that sounds silly, but you don't get to not be Tan France. When you are on such a massive show, and it's a global show. I was in Istanbul a few months ago in a spice market thinking, nobody's going to know me in Istanbul. That's not the case. They know your name. Yeah. And so no matter where you turn, you know there's always going to be a photo of you shoving your face full of food or sleeping. Like that's the hardest part is the pictures that turn up online.
Sleeping on a plane.
I just think, come on. Like, I'm going to ask you all a favor. If ever you see somebody famous on a plane, please don't take pictures of them sleeping because it's so awkward. This is the most awkward part, is that when you wake up as that person who's been photographed, and then you start to walk off the plane, and that person's like, oh my gosh, Tan France, what are you doing on the flight? And you're like, bitch, I just saw your picture that you took of me. And also, let me say this, when you tag somebody on your stories, we see it. I think that people think when you tag them in your main feed, that's when you see it. But no, when you tag me in your story, I see it every time. So every one of those creeper shots you got, I saw. And so after you've taken it and you walk over, like, somebody did it. Okay, can I tell you a really quick funny story? I was at a restaurant with my husband a few days ago. So this really is the hardest part, is when you just want to be with your husband, and I only get to see him like a week every month now. And I just want to be able to go out to dinner. And so now you do kind of... Again, I know I sound like I'm moaning, but I promise you it's a real thing. You feel like...
your dinner gets interrupted 10 times over the course of an hour. That's
and when you feel like you have to always be home, so I don't go out to dinner very often anymore. And if I go to dinner, I face a wall, and we're not being brats when we call for a reservation and say, can we have a table that faces a wall? We just know that that's the only way we can actually try and eat, and I have to wear a hat. And
do you wear like a big wide-brimmed, sort of veiled, sort of...
And I wear my Met Gala gown.
Yeah.
And I don't know why people stop me for photos. And so this woman, it was really funny to watch. So we walked in and we were waiting in line to get a table. And this girl faked her surprise for like 4 times because I was pretending I hadn't seen her. So she was like, oh my gosh, Tan. but she'd already taken a couple of pictures discreetly, and I was so busy talking that I didn't hear her, but I saw what she was doing, but I didn't want to stop my conversation with my husband. And then again, she decided to try and pretend that she was pulling a menu. Oh my God. And then she tried one last time. I'm like, oh God, I'll just throw her a bone. Hi, what a surprise, I'm here, huh?
I'm forever grateful that radio listeners can't actually see me.
Yeah.
Really
I had no
nice...
idea what you looked like until a few months ago when my friends sent me pictures.
That.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's take a few minutes to talk about fashion. One of the things I would like to know is what have you got against belts? Because men have so few ways to accessorize in this world. Why would you take that away from us?
A belt here's the thing. I make it very clear in the book, Ari Shapiro, that if a belt is for function, I don't want anything to do with it. If your pants need a belt, you're wearing the wrong size pants. Like, get your shit together. Buy pants that fit. If you're wearing it because you want a style moment, you go, please. That's what I want. I want you to wear a belt for fashion, not for function.
Okay. Any tips for a freshman in college who wants to be fashion forward but is on a budget?
Yes. I was once a student and I was broke as a joke, and so I made places like H&M. They didn't have Forever 21, but those kind of stores, my best friends. And I would get a capsule wardrobe where I would buy a few t-shirts, a few shirts, button-up shirts, a couple of pairs of jeans, a couple of pairs of trousers, and I would just rotate that. The most important thing is your outerwear, summer or winter, or the other months, or the other seasons. Just outerwear is the most important thing because it's the one thing that people see. The rest of it can just be simple, classic, plain. Keep it simple.
This is not strictly a clothing question, but I have a personal interest in this question. I've reached the point in my life where when I see a friend who I haven't seen in maybe 6 months or more, they'll say, oh my God, your hair, I love where it's going. And it's now happened enough that I understand that means salt and pepper.
Yes.
So as a fellow member of this team, what are your thoughts and like what is your philosophy on going through life with the salt and pepper transitioning from pepper to salt?
Well, I would like to now believe that I'm the queen of this team.
I'll anoint you.
You've just got a rocket. I've never been ashamed of it. I love this shit.
Oh, I feel like I've earned it.
Yeah. Well, no, mine started at 17, so I hadn't earned it at that point.
Okay.
But it's how I feel about my skin color as well at this point. It's what God gave me. I love it. I'm going to accept it. It's the face He gave me. It's the body. I'm just going to love it for what it is. And I've turned it into a fashion moment. Embrace it. Enjoy it.
Thank you.
And if somebody says, I like where you're going, so bitch, no, I already got there. Look at me.
Another question from the audience.
I was not always this confident, so you know.
You know, actually, that was something that I forgot to ask about when we were in our Queer Eye moment, is the moment that you thought you were too, what's the word, introverted or just not sort of American exclamation pointy enough on camera?
If you guys who came to my last talk, I kind of touched on this, but I actually tried to quit Queer Eye many times. When I was offered the job, I said yes, and then a few days later I said no, I was actually joking, I definitely don't want the job. And then about a week before I started the job, I tried to quit. And then again, about every week for 3 weeks, I tried to quit whilst I was on the show. Because when you come from a culture, my community really didn't take photos. There's one photo of me in the book that my mom snuck and kept from when I was like a few years old, 7 or 8, maybe even 6. And up until the point that I hit 24, I didn't have photos taken. I don't know why we don't in our culture, we just don't. And so going from never really having photos taken to then having a crew of people watching you perform is very strange. And so every couple of hours between each scene, I would go and cry in the restroom, and I would carry my
literal like cry in the restroom.
Full on cry. It was crippling. I was so nervous, and I'd carry my jade roller in there, so afterwards I could do.
I'm embarrassed to say I don't know what a jade roller is.
It's this cold stone that takes away
literal jade.
Yeah, that takes away the puffiness. Game changer. Every morning. Yeah. People ask me what I do with my skin all the time. I'm like, fucking jade roller. It's so nice.
Jade roller.
Yeah.
Write that down. Jade roller.
And then after about 3 episodes, we do an episode a week. I went to the executive producer's apartment. We all lived in the same building, and so I went to his apartment like 11:30 at night, saying, "I've booked my flight home. I'm not going to sue you guys if you guys don't sue me." And I'd retired, this is an ironic comment, but it's true, I had retired a few weeks beforehand because of the stress book, because I then had more money than I needed. And I could live my whole life comfortably. So I was like, I can sue you, like you can't threaten me, Netflix. I don't know who I thought I was.
And this was all just out of insecurity? This was just a fear that you weren't up to the task?
I thought that people would be able to tell that I wasn't right for this job. I thought that people would think that I sucked real hard. And so, because I didn't know how to be anything other than myself, I wasn't a performer. This is very much me, and I'm positive if you ever meet the boys, they'll tell you that for me, there's no difference. Whatever you see on the show is very much me in real life. And so I was worried because they were all able to be American, and I had no idea how to do that. And so I thought that they were going to fire me eventually because I wasn't able to turn it on enough. And then thankfully, they convinced me that was the reason why they hired me. They wanted me to just be the heart, like somebody who could truly connect on a very, very sincere level with people. So, I mean, it's not that...
If you're the heart, which one is the fingernails?
I think I have both, which is terrifying.
No, I think that's such an important story for people who feel imposter syndrome, which I think is everyone at some point in their life.
Yeah.
Let's get back to fashion, shall we?
Sure.
How do heavy guys tuck their shirts properly?
It's called the French tuck. Next.
I want to make sure we get to this question because it's a really important one.
You've got really pretty handwriting.
Oh, thanks.
Oh, gosh. What would your drag name be? Okay. I've never seen Drag Race.
You've never seen RuPaul's Drag Race? Well, there are other drag shows in the world.
How do you do...
Have you ever seen a drag show?
No.
Are there any Wednesday night drag shows in Washington, D.C.? This has to be remedied post-haste.
Do you have a drag show on a Wednesday? Yeah.
I mean, Salt Lake City has drag shows. Nellie's? Okay.
There's a chance you might see me at Nellie's.
Oh, now you've done it.
How do you come up with a drag? I know what my porn name would be.
What would your porn name be? We'll take that instead.
My porn name is Dino St. Helens.
Dino St. Helens.
Which I think is actually really good.
I don't believe in those like BuzzFeed, here's how you come up with your NPR name, Quisticles, whatever
No.
things.
The porn surname you learn when you're like 10.
What's the rule?
It's your first pet's name and your first street name.
Brandy Bowman.
Ooh, that's a nice one.
There's so much more we could talk about. But
we have time?
It's 8 o'clock. Listen, I don't have anywhere
to be. We started at 7:15, Celine.
All right, okay, let's keep going. I got no place to be.
I need more time. Can I tell you what I'd like to talk about?
Please, yes, absolutely. Okay, I'm here for you, Tan.
Okay, wonderful. 2 things I would like to talk about. So the book is super, super lighthearted. And did you find it funny at all?
I loved it, yes.
Okay, good.
It was delightful.
Did it make
I read the whole damn thing.
Did it make you giggle?
Yes.
Okay, good. Because it's really fucking snarky. And you'll realize that I really, truly am a vile bitch in this book. Like, I would like to believe I'm very nice and I'm very kind to everybody, but I've always got an opinion. And it's usually snarky. And so that's what you will get in this book. And it's very lighthearted. Did any of you read Tina Fey's book? It's my favorite book. And I took so much inspiration from there because Tina Fey's book made me loll like constantly on a flight. When I first listened to the book, the stewardess on a flight had to come over and ask me if I was okay because I could barely breathe. I was laughing so hard. Anyway, I love that she manages to balance real shit and then make you laugh, and I wanted to do the same thing. And so there are a couple of chapters in the book that were really hard to write. The rest of them were easy and they were fun and they were playful, especially the one where I meet Rob. He thought I was Mexican. Anyway.
From your accent?
From my face.
Joking.
Oh, sorry. Well, that wouldn't surprise me either because he's from Wyoming. He probably didn't know what the accent was. And so it was a very valid question. But there's two chapters. The very first chapter was a hard one to write.
Where you describe bullying that you endured as a child.
Yeah, I've never said that I was bullied as a kid because I wasn't. I don't think I was bullied as a kid. I know members of my community who were actually bullied, and there was a clear distinction.
But you physically had to run home from school to escape kids who wanted to. Yeah. Every
day we would either walk super fast. Actually, there's a couple of stories in the book in particular, but there was a time when I would panic when my brother would be sick because he would have to stay home. And I would get really nervous and I'd cry a lot before school and I would pretend I was sick too. And it's because I knew that I had to walk to school. It was about a 10-minute walk. And so I had to walk to school, but I knew that if I was on my own, they were more likely to get me. And it was purely because I was brown. Nothing else, not because there was nothing else to pick on other than the fact that I was brown and we lived in a very white community. And so I learned from like the age of 5, we start kindergarten, we call it nursery at 3. Then we start first grade at 4. And so by the time I was 5, I learned that I had to try and find families to walk close to so kids wouldn't beat me up, so older kids wouldn't hit me. And these were kids who were like 13, 14, 15. Some of them were 18, 19, like wouldn't beat the shit out of me. That's a terrifying place to be in. Yeah. And knowing that as a 5 or 6-year-old, all the way up to 17, knowing I've got to stay close to families, otherwise they're going to get me, is a real shitty, like a sorry state of affairs. And so when I was thinking of writing the book, somebody asked me to write the book, and I was like, I've got no story to tell. There's no reason to tell my story. And then when I started really considering writing it, I thought, I do want to include this stuff. It's going to be hard for people to read, really hard for people to read, but they have to understand that there are real injustices that still go on, especially in the places where I'm from.
So speaking of real injustices, the version of the book that I read was this sort of early thing that is sent to journalists, and there's a chapter that came into the book after I read the book.
Yes. Did I talk about that already tonight?
No.
Oh my God, I'm so sorry. I've done so much press today. I thought I'd spoken about it already. There was one chapter that I added at the very end. So when you write a book, you have a closing date where you must be finished. And so I'd finished, and there was the one story I wanted to add when I first thought of writing the book was this. And I decided not to add it because I was too scared of what Americans would say about it. And honestly, I thought that I might get a lot of hate online for it, and I'm too weak to accept that. And so my following is quite lovely. They always say something really nice, and if somebody says something mean, they get them, which is wonderful.
I want to be on that Twitter.
Yeah. Oh, I don't use Twitter. Twitter's hell.
Oh, yes.
I use Twitter once a month.
True.
Yes, it's Instagram. And thank you all for jumping to my defense. It's very rare I get a mean comment, but I love to watch the comments that are made at that person when they're stupid enough to come for me. And I don't say a word back. I'm just like, haha, you dumb. But there's this one thing that I was very worried about, and so I added it at the very end. The book had closed, and I called my publishers and I said, look, I need to add this one chapter. I need to send it to you, and if you don't want to add it, don't add it, because I've got a feeling people are going to not be happy about this chapter. It's called 9/11. And it's the reason why it was hard to write and a tough decision to put in the book is because Americans are very sensitive about 9/11, and rightly so. The world is, and rightly so. But let me say this. Have you had a chance to read that chapter yet? No, right?
I only found out about it today.
You only have this version. Okay. So the chapter is important for me because before all of this, again, it's only been 14, 15 months since I was on the show. Before this, I was Tan Safta, and my legal name in my passport was Tanvir Safta, which is a very Muslim name. And I got stopped between the age of 17 and 23. I was stopped 24 times and detained whilst coming into the United States. And every time you are sent into a different room for a few hours whilst they question you. And they are very aggressive with you. They are not sweet people. They are very, very aggressive, and they treat you like you're a terrorist. And I made it clear in the book that I understand the notion of never forget. Every time I come through American customs, US customs, I see these signs everywhere that say never forget, never forget. And I get it. We can't forget the people that lost their lives. However, what that says, that notice says to everybody who's coming into this country, or everybody who lives in this country, never forget that brown person might be trouble. We don't know if he's a terrorist, but we do know he's brown. We do know he or she's Muslim, and that could be a threat for us. And what they also are never forgetting is that, yes, there is a threat of terrorism. We are scared of that. We are also just as scared as everybody else. But what we then have an added layer of every time somebody says never forget or see something, say something, is that we are not only a target for terrorists, we are also a target for everyone that might see us as a terrorist. So the amount of hate that we went through after 9/11 and continue to go through because of that never forgetting is insane. When I walked down the street after 9/11, it was no longer just this disgusting word people used to use for me as a kid, of all of my people as a kid, which is Paki, which is basically our version of the N-word. It's such a disgusting word to use to us. And it means we understand very quickly, as soon as we hear that word, what you think of us. And so it changed as soon as 9/11 hit. It was no longer Paki, and I started to really miss the word Paki, because at that point it became terrorist or raghead or something that implied that we were going to cause them some trouble, that we were a threat. And so us never forgetting means that we will never forget, and we will never be allowed to forget.
I'm sorry that you had to go through that. And in a way that sort of dovetails into the last question I wanted to ask you, which was...
We should end this light. Go on. If not, we will end it light. Yeah. Sorry, bro.
So you now have this incredible platform and megaphone.
Yeah.
And you can use it to write a book and to create another Netflix show, which, by the way, congratulations. I don't know if everybody knows. There's yet another show coming out. It is called Next in Fashion.
It's so good.
It's a competition show.
It's finished, but it's amazing.
So, you suddenly have been given this whole toy box to play with.
Yeah.
What do you want to do with it?
That's a really good question, Ari Shapiro. I can see why you do this for a living. First things first, I want to be able to explore and be as free as possible to explore whatever I want to explore. And if I want to try something new, like another show, I want the freedom to do so. But the reason why I took the job, and again, this is explained in the book, it was actually my husband. He's to thank for all of this. I wasn't going to go for the job because I had no interest in fame or this world show business. I was terrified of it. I took the job, I auditioned for the job, partly because I didn't see a version of myself on TV, and I so wish I had that as a kid. And I thought for many, many years, yes, I see that white gay man, yes, I see that black gay man. Do people not care about brown stories? Why is that brown story? Yeah, not just South Asian people, where are Latinos, where are Asians, your versions of Asians, Middle Eastern people, where are we? Are we only interested in the Caucasian or the black queer story? And so when I was offered the job, I just thought I feel a responsibility to take this to finally normalize what it is to be gay and Asian. And so I just want to continue being me, just being myself. And I'm hoping that will encourage people, kids and grown-ups, to feel less alone and think, if stupid tan France can do it, I can do it.
Ladies and gentlemen, stupid tan France. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for coming. Is this still on? Thank you so much for coming. I appreciate it. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Turn the lights up. I want to see them. Turn the lights up, I want to see them. I just want to see how cute they look.
Can we turn the lights on in the audience?
Turn the lights.
Oh, so we can see you.
Hi. Oh, yeah. Oh, thank you so much. I know there's so much you could be doing on a Wednesday night, so I really appreciate you coming out. Thank you, truly, truly, thank you so much. And I hope you'll love the book. Thank you. Oh my God, look at that skirt. Thank you so much.